name's Sadie Holzmeyer, and I lead the Florida chapter for Digital Democracy Project. And with us recently expanding nationwide, I do a lot of the outreach now as well. And yeah, Ramon's on the call. I guess I'll let you introduce yourself if you like.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ramon Perez. I'm the Executive Director of Digital Democracy Project. I'm going to play a supporting role here. Sadie's really running the show tonight, but I'll be available to answer any questions, especially around technology. I tend to focus a lot on the tech, and Sadie does all of the outreach and focuses on legislation.
Awesome. And yeah, Charles is our legislative director. I'm not sure if he's on here, but he helps us out with all the legislative tracking. So we really appreciate that. Pretty essential to what we're doing. And yeah, Libba, thanks for joining again. So yeah, those of you that attended our nationwide launch, thanks for joining again. If you're new here, we'll provide an overview about who Digital Democracy Project is, what we're doing. And we've been hosting these at the state level in Florida. So this will be our first nationwide one where we'll go over the federal bills we've carried. So I'm going to start off with an explainer video that'll give an overview about who we are. But overall, Digital Democracy Project, we are a nonpartisan nonprofit. We're building a voter-driven system of government all about putting power in the hands of voters. So voters get to submit their votes on the same bills as their legislators, so we can tell them how we want them to be voting. And then there's a lot of transparency to it. We post all the real-time results so you can see what the voters want, legislators can see. And then we do a comparison to how our legislators vote so we can see how well they're matching what the voters wanted. And then that way voters can hold them accountable at election time. So we'll start out with the explainer video. And hopefully the audio is working. Let me know if you have trouble hearing.
Ever wish you could tell your legislators exactly how to vote? Well, now you can. And it's right in the palm of your hands. Introducing the Digital Democracy Project, a mobile voting app and online tracking system, connecting you to the process, giving you the power. You vote on pending bills, on issues that affect us all, every day, telling legislators how you want them to vote. There's no party politics, no big money, and no special interests. We only compare what voters want to what legislators actually deliver, and everybody can see it. Your representatives, the media, everybody, all from your phone. Plus, it's absolutely free. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. You vote on the same bills as your representatives. We track it online in real time, a running tally. Then we take score. We add up every vote on every issue and we post it. You can see if they have voted with or against the majority. And come election time, now you know the score. It's powered by blockchain technology, keeping you secure. And with ID verification, it guarantees that all votes are real votes by real human voters. And don't worry, we never store, share, or monetize your data. And we never will. We're just putting the power where it belongs, right in your hands. So join us. We have the technology. You have the power. The Digital Democracy Project. This is what democracy looks like.
All right, and I'm gonna stop sharing my screen just for a second to switch my view so I can continue admitting people. And yeah, I wanted to say also, so for tonight, we're gonna cover as maybe like, we'll try to skim over at least all the bills we've carried, maybe get through at least half of them, but we definitely wanna give you guys a chance to share your thoughts if you have opinions on the bills. Since we're all about giving voters more say, we wanna give you guys a chance to hear from you all. And so I'll start off, I'm gonna go over quickly the resources on our website, and then we'll jump into the bills. And I'll show you guys how to vote too. If we have new people on here, we'll include about how to get into the Votes app and vote. So yeah, how it works overall, there's the free mobile voting app we use is Votes. It's VOATZ. And after I go through the website, we'll switch over to that. I'll show you guys how to get in the app. So individual voters submit their votes through the Votes app once they get verified, and then all the results get relayed to the website. So I'll pull up probably the one bill that I think most people have heard about, the One Big Beautiful Bill. We'll start with that one for this little demo. So this is on our tally map, and so here you can see the vote results. They'll continue to update, and for each bill you can see a summary of the bill, and then the vote results you can see for each state, how many voters support, how many oppose and abstain. You can see the percentages, and then for the country overall you can see, so any state you click on you can see the vote results. And then there are also some extra features. So the open states by plural, they're pretty helpful. You can see up here in the corner, you can see the status of the bill, like the dates when it passed the House, if it became law, and the Senate. And then you can see the bill sponsors, and then it'll include info about the history of the bill, the vote results, and yeah, the actions. So it's a good way to track like what's been going on with the legislation, the status of it. And then another helpful feature, we have the Kialo. So that will include about pros and cons for the bill, and then we put some in here to start out with, but we really want to get more people weighing in, so you guys can add pros and cons if you feel like the summary doesn't mention everything and you have other thoughts you'd like to share. You can drop those in here, and then voters can see them when deciding how to vote. So want to make sure everyone's aware of that additional resource. And then you can also see the full bill text. So pretty straightforward. Yeah, this one was only 1,000+ pages. And yeah, so if you want to read through the bill, help yourself. And then, so this is where we're trying to get as many voters as we can weighing in. We want to, it kind of helps the more voters that weigh in, the more power voters have, the more influence, the more our legislators will listen. So we're really focused a lot on scaling up and then just keeping more voters informed and engaged in what's going on. And then on this page too, we track all these bills ahead of time and put them into the app in advance of a floor vote, so voters get a chance to weigh in first. And that's where legislators can get that input from their voters to help inform their voting before they have to take a vote on the floor. So also serves as a resource for legislators in that way also. And yeah, you can see in here they're organized by the date that we posted them in the app. So you just click on any of these, you can see which bills, and then this corresponds with how they're ordered in the app right now. And so yeah, we'll jump back to this. Oh, and I did want to point out too, so you can also select one of the states. And I should say too, we started in Florida in 2023 to provide some background. So we started with state legislation, and then in 2024 we added federal legislation. And then just recently we expanded to the nationwide, or to the national level, to where any US voter can vote on federal bills. So for each state on this page, you can kind of zoom in and see how voters in different districts are voting at the congressional level here. And so this is what we do first before the legislators vote, the tally map where you can see all the results. And then after our legislators vote, we do a comparison of how the first column shows, kind of relays how the majority of voters voted. If they overall opposed the bill, it's a thumbs down. If they supported the bill, it's a thumbs up. And then the middle column shows how the legislator voted. And then the third column just illustrates if the legislator's vote matched how the voter voted, they get a thumbs up. If it did not match, they get a thumbs down. And then that proportion of how often they're matching is where that score comes from. So the higher the score, the more often they're matching voters had voted. And then, okay, sorry, I had someone join late. I'm gonna hop off here for just a second. Okay, yeah, I didn't set this to where it automatically admits people. And Ramon, you're not able to?
I've been adding folks, so you can
Okay,
continue.
awesome. Okay, sounds good. And let me pull this back up. All right, so yeah, the scorecards, we're providing this so that voters, for one, know how their legislators voting, know we can show how often they're matching, listening to their voters, and then that way at election time, if our voters aren't listening, if the voters feel like their legislators aren't listening, then they can hold them accountable by deciding if they want to replace them or re-elect them based on, yeah, how well they're listening and their voting record. So providing that for voters to help inform their voting at election time. And we do also, I'll briefly touch on, oh, and I did want to mention, once we're working on getting more votes across the country, and then we'll add the accountability scorecards for all members of Congress and all US legislators before the midterm. So yeah, definitely want to keep getting voters weighing in, and then we'll have those scorecards to evaluate our legislators. And then this view, the bills view, is where you can kind of sort the bills that we've carried. You can sort by different topics, by year, by state, federal, and we'll be adding all the federal bills that are live into here so that you can see like a full breakdown. So to show you what it'll look like, you can see, let me see. You can see, I'm trying to find one that got voted on. This is blocking over here. All right, so for each bill, it'll provide the overview. You can see the summary and then the vote results on the map for how the voters voted. And then you'll be able to sort by the districts here. And then it's a little different than the scorecards. It'll compare how the voters voted to how the legislator voted, or sorry, the voters in each district, how they voted compared to their legislator. And then, yeah, just showing how often they match. So it's a good way to see how everyone voted on a bill versus the whole scorecard for each legislator. And then I don't know. Yeah, I'll show you guys another. Let me just pull this up real quick while I'm on here. So a new feature that we added, you'll be able to see how organizations, if they've publicly taken a stance either in support or opposition of the bill, we added this feature now to kind of provide more context on the bill. So this one was the Fair Representation Act. So with all the gerrymandering going on, this is one of the bills we wanted to highlight tonight. So it'll include ranked choice voting and multi-member districts for better representation and yeah, for fair nonpartisan redistricting. So yeah, that's one of the bills that's been getting a lot of attention, and you guys are probably aware of all the ongoing gerrymandering going on. So yeah, that's one of the major bills. And then I did want to briefly mention, I'm not going to go into depth about it, but we do also, in addition to providing this as a resource for voters, we're also looking for candidates and legislators that are interested in using this technology as a way to hear from their voters, and then we'll help communicate that to voters. So any candidate or legislator can endorse wanting to use our technology, and yeah, we'll work with them to help communicate that. So if anyone on the call is a candidate themselves, legislator, or knows someone that they think might be interested, you can definitely let them know, or yeah, share their info with us and we'll reach out to them. So I'm going to jump over to the Votes app and then we'll get into the bills. And then I'll introduce the Votes app and then we'll pause if anyone has questions. I think I saw some pop up in the chat and Ramon's probably answering those, but if there are any more that people want to ask, we'll pause for a minute to do that.
We had a good question about how do legislators see this? How do they get informed of what their voters want? And everything on the website is public. We are a nonprofit. We do this as a public service. So legislators have access to this and they can use it to inform their voting, just like they would with a poll, except they don't have to pay for it. We're providing it for free. So we've had a few dozen legislators in Florida where we've started who've already endorsed this project, and Sadie's actively speaking to additional legislators in other states. We're involved with some organizations that are putting us in touch with people running for the U.S. House of Representatives who want to endorse the project and use it to inform their voting. So the more people vote, the more we can influence legislators. But it's always a chicken and egg, because they want to see lots of people in their district voting so that they can pay attention to it.
Yeah, and on that note, I was going to add to on our website, we do have a media page where the candidates who have endorsed will offer to do a video interview to kind of hear their perspective, give them a chance to talk about why they're running, their issues, priorities, and then like how Digital Democracy Project can be a resource for them. And then Ramon also did a TEDx talk that provides more about kind of his inspiration behind Digital Democracy Project. So if you haven't seen that yet, it's definitely something I'd recommend you check out. And so the Votes app. So I would imagine some of you are probably already in the app and some of you are not. So the Votes app, if you go, you can either, Ramon, if you don't mind to drop this page link into the chat. So
Certainly.
This page will take you, these links right here will take you to, I should say too, if you're on your phone, this page will take you, the links on this page will take you to download the app in either the App Store or the Google Play Store. And then, or you can go directly to the App Store, Google Play Store, and just search for Votes. It's VOATZ. And then the logo's like it's a blue box with a white check mark. So, and then the app is used for real voting in actual elections. So they're certified mobile voting technology, and they've been used in like over 150 elections. Are certified in multiple states, and they started for service members overseas to be able to vote for their phone from their phones. So we use them because they're tested out and they prioritize security, because as you sign up, once you create your account, it'll have you verify that you're a registered voter. So the standard way, it'll do identity verification. You'll scan a photo ID, do a selfie scan, and it just takes about a minute or two to sign up. And then once you get verified, you'll be able to vote on all the previous bills, and then we'll continue posting new bills. Right now, it's about every other week or so, we'll post a new set of bills. So that way we can continue to compile votes from people over time. And the other thing about the verification, we want to verify people are real people. They're not bots. We don't have people voting 10 times. And it also protects from like bad actors if people were to try to skew the results to misrepresent what the voters want. So we want having it verified, we want the votes to be reliable, the data to be reliable, and to accurately reflect what the voters want. And then with the verification for the voter registration, that helps us pinpoint the votes into the district that the voter, that they're registered in. So yeah, I'll pause here for a minute if anyone has questions. And then yeah, if you'd like to get into the app right now, then that way we can help you if you have any questions at the end too. And then you'll be able to vote on the bills that we'll be talking about here soon. So Ramon, I don't know if you've seen any questions in the chat, if you want to relay anything.
Yes, I think Mary had a great question about people with impairments who struggle to get to the polls, or especially visual impairments or disabilities. The Votes app has been used for people who have trouble with the traditional ways of voting. So that's been one of the advantages. You have the accessibility features on your iPhone that can read off the bills to you, or read off in an election, read off the candidates to you. So that's a great upgrade, I think, from the traditional approach. And then Karen had a question about how does the technology protect from user abuse? And Sadie mentioned voter ID verification and voter registration verification. That's how we know that these are real people and not bots or malicious actors. But also the blockchain backend provides not only verified voting, but it's unhackable by design. No individual, either company or developer, has the crypto keys. So there's a lot of smarts built into the technology to keep it from being manipulated in transit. It also protects the secret ballot. So we actually don't know how an individual votes on a given bill. So we can't say, oh, Sadie voted yes on the One Big Beautiful Bill and Ramon voted no. We don't know that. All we know is that Sadie is a verified voter and a real human being, and the device level encryption is secure. So we don't know if she agrees with a point of view or not. All we know is that a certain number of people voted yes, a certain number of people voted no, and these are the districts that they represent. So hopefully, Karen, that answers some of your questions. But if I didn't, please post in the app, or sorry, in the messages, and I'll follow up.
And yeah, on the accessibility topic that you brought up, I wanted to relate to the app is set up to where if your phone is set to a different language, it'll translate everything in the app to that language. So voters are able to view all the bills and make those decisions in their preferred language. And then I'll pause here too. If anyone has questions, you should be able to come off the mute. And if you'd like to ask questions, we'll do that before we get into the bills. So feel free to hop off mute. And yeah, there is a raise hand option, so you can do that as well. And then Ramon, if you see any other questions pop up, feel free to, if you want to answer them out loud. All right, no questions. All right, and then if you do, while we're going through the bills, we would like to hear your thoughts if you'd like to share. I should say too, our nonprofit, so we're providing this as a platform so that voters can have a say. So we don't really take stances on bills. And then the scorecards, we're also providing that platform to where voters are the ones that that's how the legislators get evaluated based on how the voters are voting. So yeah, if you guys would like to share opinions, you can do that as we go through the bills, but we try to provide like neutral summaries about the bill and then the extra resources to provide more background. And then we're gonna start from the top, so the most recent bills. And then yeah, based on like how much people want to engage and how many bills or how much people engage will determine like how many bills will go through. So we'll try to see how it goes and go through what we can. Yeah, we definitely want to leave time for you guys to have more of a say if you want to share. And then yeah, continue to drop questions in the chat. And at this point, if you have a question, you can come off mute too and ask. So yeah, I think I'll briefly try to mention at least each bill, and then we can go into depth about, if anyone has thoughts, we can go into depth about some of them too. And so the Visible Act was one that we just carried. I know it's gotten a lot of attention with the ICE. So this bill would mandate immigration enforcement officers to wear visible identification. And then it also prevents them from being able to hide their faces behind masks. So yeah, that's one of the bills voters have been weighing in on. And the State Public Option Act, that was one of the bills that would kind of help facilitate for states to be able to have public option through Medicaid. So more people have access to health insurance. And then the Protect Medicaid and Rural Hospitals Act, that one was also one where the One Big Beautiful Bill had included some cuts to Medicaid. So this bill, if it passed, would actually undo those cuts. And funny enough, the Josh Hawley representative, he voted in favor of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, but then proposed this bill to undo those cuts that he had voted in favor for. So that is an option voters are weighing in on as well. And then, yeah, if you guys like on your own time too, you can click on any of the states and see the results, or yeah, see the results for each district. And then the additional features, like the additional resources. And the Early Childhood Education and Trust Fund, that one would kind of shift some of the funding from the estate tax to help provide additional funding for childcare. And the big one that we featured this week was the Block the Bombs Act. So this one was basically, yeah, barring the president from selling, transferring, or exporting certain defense articles or services to Israel, and unless Congress authorizes specific uses and Israel provides written assurances of compliance with those purposes and international human rights laws. So this one we thought would be really interesting. It seems like there are people in support and opposition on even both sides of the major parties. and people seem to be on different sides of this issue. So we were curious to see how voters are weighing in. And I'll just touch on this last one, and then I'll just pause if anyone has any thoughts, comments they want to share about any of these or questions about them. And then the Making American Elections Great Again Act, that was one that would modify the census by counting only U.S. citizens, influencing how representatives are apportioned to states, mandates proof of citizenship and photo ID to vote in federal elections. Provisional ballots would only be allowed if citizenship is verified. Impacts the electoral process by limiting participation to confirmed citizens. So yeah, that would change how the representation, how many representatives are in each state if we change the census to not include people that aren't U.S. citizens. So yeah, especially if you voted on any of the bills, if you have any thoughts you want to share or any questions. And yeah, Ramon, I cannot easily see the chat, so if there's anything in there you want to relay to.
I'm responding to the messages now.
Yeah,
I'm sure you'll probably get to it. I wanted to also get a chance to highlight our newest, our two newest features, VoteBot, as well as the the oppose and support organizations.
Yeah, let me pull that up. I think I accidentally exited out of that tab. So yeah, we do have two new features, or I had mentioned the organizational one, and then VoteBot, who you may have seen when you go to the website, will help. It's like an AI bot that'll help answer questions about how to get into the app and answer different questions so that so it'll help you until one of us is able to help if someone has questions that they like help getting into the app or about the website, things like that. So now VoteBot got an upgrade and will answer questions about bills too. So yeah, so for example, this one was on the Fair Representation Act. So I don't know if anyone wants to suggest a question. If you have a question about the Fair Representation Act, or I can test it out if no one has any thoughts they want to share. All right, well, we'll drop a question in here. And then this bill too, I was gonna say the VoteBot too, it takes a minute, it'll search for the answer to the question. So yeah, to provide you the answer, just letting you know, it'll take a couple minutes or seconds to give you a response, a couple seconds. And then, yeah, Ramon, I don't know if you want to add in anything about VoteBot.
So VoteBot can answer general questions about how to enroll in the app and who's Digital Democracy Project, but our most recent upgrade allows you to go onto a bill page and ask more specific questions about that bill. And what the AI is doing is it's going to ingest everything it can find about that bill from inside of our databases, as well as perform an internet search to find any additional information that's perhaps more recent, and give you in order to answer your questions. So that's the most recent upgrade, and you can get a lot of fine-grained detail about a specific bill that was previously harder to find. It also, because these are bills that are actively being debated right now, sometimes they don't show up on, if you do a ChatGPT or Perplexity search, you don't get things like, where is it in, has it moved from one committee to another? How many votes have been taken? What's the current status of the bill? So a lot of that we can get from open states, we send that into the AI at the moment when you're asking a question. So we try to give you the most current information that we've got on that legislation. So we still consider this in beta and would love to have your feedback. So as you're using it, things that you don't like, let us know. If you like it, let us know. If you just, I mean, I would like for it to be faster. I'd like for it to be, we're prioritizing really good, giving good answers, but sometimes that comes at a cost of speed because it is consuming a lot of information it actually reads the entire legislation as well when it answers your question. So I'm going to try to work on making it quicker.
And yeah, I know some of the initial feedback we had been getting before we added these features were that people were unsure. They didn't feel confident about like if they should vote in support or opposition to bills. So that's kind of where these features came from. So this way you can see if you're familiar with organizations, that can provide some extra context. And then anyone can ask like whichever question they'd like to kind of help inform their voting too. So yeah, the feedback's really important to help us decide about new features to add. And I know I did see a question pop up, I think from Liva, about ranked choice voting. So yeah, ranked
Yeah, I
choice.
was just about to.
Did you want to?
Sorry, I was about to answer that question. So
Go for
yes,
it.
the question on ranked choice voting. The simplest way to describe it, I think, would be to say that it is an instant runoff system. Whereas in a lot of states, if you don't get above 50% in an election, you go to a runoff, and then the top two vote getters from the first election will go into a runoff in the second election, and then somebody has to get more than 50% to win. But with ranked choice voting, you do all of that in a single ballot. So you say, okay, in this election, my first choice is candidate A, and if candidate A doesn't make it in this election and there's a runoff, I would choose candidate B. That's my second choice. And if candidate B is not available because he doesn't make it into the runoff, I would choose candidate C. And so that's my third choice. So basically, you're just ranking your choices in priority order of how you would want to see them in an election. And so instead of holding a runoff, it can all be done in one ballot effectively. I think that's the simplest way to define ranked choice voting.
Yeah, and I know some of the popular things about ranked choice voting too, people don't have to worry about wasting their vote. If your candidate doesn't make it, your vote still counts for your next choice. And then also it does change the way candidates interact. It's kind of what I describe as like less toxic because people are trying to win over your second and third choice votes too. So a little extra info. And then, yeah, I'm sorry, I realized I hadn't switched my tab. So this is where VoteBot over here, kind of how it looks. So I had asked like how this bill would affect gerrymandering, and then it'll give you a response, and then you can continue to ask questions. And then, yeah, I pulled this up real quick, but I hadn't mentioned, we also have these impact statements that we had added to kind of provide more info for if you vote yes on a bill, kind of what that means, if you vote no, and then about like why organizations support, why organizations oppose. And then this bill particularly had a lot of organizations that had taken a stance on it. So yeah, some of them don't have as many, but yeah, this one got a lot of attention. And yeah, again.
Oh, that's again, I like to I like to talk about the tech stuff. For those of you who are tech oriented, and I know Joel is, this is our first implementation of GPT-5. And so it's going and scouring the internet to find any public statements issued by any of the organizations, either in favor or in opposition to a given bill. And then it comes back and tells us which organizations. I think a future version of this that we're working on right now would be you'd get to click on one of the names of the organization, and it would take you to a page for that organization that just gives you more details about the organization. What kind of organization are they? Are they a church, a union, a nonprofit, an industry group, a lobbying group, or whatever, a think tank, whatever it is, to give you more details about that organization, and then a list of all the bills that they've either supported or opposed, and then citations to any statements that they've issued supporting or opposing a given bill. So we're trying to give you as much information as we can find about these different groups and why they might take a stand on one issue or another.
Yeah, so those are pretty interesting. Whenever you go through the bills, we'll make that more accessible so you can pull that up. And then, yeah, if there aren't any questions, if I feel like people are pretty quiet tonight, if no one wants to share any stances, then
I will say there's been a ton of activity in the chat, so
okay.
I'm trying to respond to.
If you'd like
they've all been politely allowing you to talk, Go.
Okay, well, if you'd like to relay anything that you think the group should know, feel free to hop in. And then I think I'd seen, sorry, I just see it like pop up. I think someone had asked about state legislation, so that's a good question. So right now we're doing federal legislation for for the country to be able to weigh in on any US voter. And as I mentioned, we started out with state legislation in Florida, but long term we want to expand to where we have state legislation in every state, and then even longer term we want to work down to the local levels, so voters in each county can weigh in on county issues, maybe even city school board. So the state right now, our goal is to expand to 2 more states in before like next or with next year, before the next legislative session. So we're kind of determining which states will expand to based on where the interest is. And a lot of what will help determine that, I know our funding, or if we can get some additional funding because our costs will go up as we expand, that will be helpful for determining. And then mostly if there's interest to help us expand on the ground to getting more voters weighing in on state legislation. And then also being able to track the bills and seeing like which bills are moving through the state legislature. And we want to be able to put those bills in the app in advance of a floor vote. So if we have like an organization or website, something to help us track, relay those to us to put in the app, that'll kind of help us determine which states we move into. So yeah, if you're interested in
Yeah.
that, definitely reach out to us.
Yeah, I just want to expand on that. I think Charles has done an amazing job because Charles is actually a legislative aide in Tallahassee working for a representative there. So he already tracks legislation. He already knows exactly the inner workings of the committee process. So he was instrumental in identifying which bills are going to likely make it to a floor vote that we would put into the app in advance of them moving through the committee processes in Tallahassee. And then he's been doing the same thing for the federal bills because he worked on Capitol Hill as well, and has been just really important in helping us prioritize, because there are thousands of bills every year and we don't want to overwhelm people loading all those bills into the app. We want to really prioritize the ones that are likely going to get traction and go somewhere and get votes that we can match up against. So we want to match what voters want to what legislators actually do. And if the legislators never vote on a bill, we don't really get any good data to work with. So as we move to additional states, that's going to be the really important part, is finding people who are tracking what's happening in their state capitals, who can work with us to help prioritize which bills get loaded into the app. So it's less of a technical thing, and it really is more about grassroots organizing and legislative tracking.
And then, yeah, you will see too, we do like to also kind of throw in and highlight some bills that are either getting a lot of attention or that organizations or voters relate to us that they're interested in. So yeah, we prioritize ones that look like they're going to advance or come up for a vote, but you'll see others in there too that may or may not end up getting voted on. And so yeah, just feel free to interrupt again if anyone wants to share anything, but we'll jump into the next week. So yeah, we covered the Fair Representation Act, and I know the Drain the Swamp Act was another one. So this one would ban political appointees from accepting gifts from registered lobbyists, create a 2-year cooling off period for officials entering and exiting the government, and ban golden parachute payouts. And
sorry, Sadie, if you are on a different page, we are looking at the Fair Representation Act.
Yes,
there we go.
Thank you.
Now we're on it.
All right, so yeah, we're moving into the next set of bills. So the Drain the Swamp Act, and then the Permit Act was another one about with a environmental type of bill, changing the Clean Water Act by narrowing the definition of waters of the United States, excluding certain waters, including waste treatment centers. And yeah, so that would have a big impact on environmental issues. And yeah, Stop Illegal Entry Act 2025. That one would increase penalties for those that illegally enter or re-enter after being removed. And the Pelosi Act got a lot of attention too. that was the one that I know Josh Hawley was one of the co-sponsors. So that one would stop members of Congress and their spouses from trading certain stocks and financial tools while in office. And yeah, basically about congressional stock trading, restricting that. And yeah, traveler privacy protection was about TSA and the, what was it? Yeah, facial recognition. And I'll try to just pause for a second just after each set. So if Ramon, if you want to add anything based on what's going on in the chat, or if anyone wants to share, feel free. We definitely would like to hear people's thoughts, as we're all about giving voters more say.
Let's see. So let's see. Marlene mentioned that there are some negative reviews about the Votes app in the App Store, and I definitely want to talk about that. I think we definitely find people struggle with the verification process sometimes, doing the selfie scan, doing the photo ID match, then finding you on the voter file. That is the biggest barrier to entry, and that's been a challenge since the beginning of the project, because, well, sometimes people just don't want to upload a photo ID. Totally get that. But part of it is just that if the system works fine and it's automatic, you get approved right away and you're right in and you can start voting. But some people get stuck in a pending status because the face ID does not automatically match against the photo ID, or there are differences where the driver's license address does not match to voter files. So the system can't find that person as a registered voter. And then it has to go to human review so that somebody at the votes team can manually verify their voter registration status and then approve them. And so people have been put into that pending status for days and wondering what's taking so long. So please, if you have that issue, or anybody in your orbit that is having that issue, please reach out to us. We do communicate with votes every day, and that's probably 90% of the feedback is that. So there are also different Android devices have weird quirks that can sometimes pop up where the app will look unusual, the font sizing will be weird, because there are 1,000,001 different Android devices, and sometimes it's just, there can be oddities that way. But like I say, 90% of the feedback is about the verification process.
And
a lot of people get through fine, and it's perfectly automatic, but that is usually where we hear people get hung up.
And yeah, I will say too, the initial process and the verification, you just have to do that once, and then you're able to vote on all the bills. So that's kind of like once you get in there, then the voting's really easy and straightforward. You kind of just pull up the app and it'll have the bills, all the links to the info. You just make your selections, confirm, and then submit the bills. So yeah, the voting's really easy. And then the selfie scan, I know too, that's, again, like, since it's used for real voting and actual elections, security is one of their top issues, to make sure especially vote results are accurate and there aren't any fake accounts. So it checks for, like, if someone were to be trying to use like a deep fake or something like that. So yeah, those are just some of the reasons why the security is really high. But yeah, please do always give us feedback, and letting us know if you have issues or anything to share. And then, yeah, jumping into the next one, again, just interrupt if anyone has thoughts, or Ramon, if you have anything you want to uplift. So the next set of bills, I think the main one that got a lot of attention that week was the one requiring the Attorney General to release records about Jeffrey Epstein. And that one's pretty straightforward. So yeah, lots of support for that one. And then with the conflict going on, the war in Russia, between Russia and Ukraine, there was a bill filed to require sanctions on Russia if it fails to negotiate peace with Ukraine or starts any military invasion. And yeah, there's some more details about that one. So if that's an issue you're concerned about, that's a bill to weigh in on related to that. And the Rescissions Act, that was one of them that did pass, became law. So this was the one that addressed the funding for public broadcasts. Like I know NPR and what's the word I'm thinking of?
Yeah, Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Yeah. Oh,
Which, NPR, PBS. Yeah.
yes. Yeah. So
And then
that
international development projects like USAID.
yeah, and that one got quite a bit of attention too. So yeah, that one did pass. And then yeah, thank you, Mary. And then yeah, you can go through the Open States link if you want to look at more details. And then once we get those scorecards, you'll be able to see who voted which way. And the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act. That one is about prohibiting the Federal Reserve banks from offering product services directly to individuals or issuing a central bank digital currency. And then the no tax on overtime.
For folks who have an interest in cryptocurrency, there have been a really a surprising number of pieces of legislation around cryptocurrency this year. There's a lot of movement on that particular issue. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some more that we carried in here we'll try to highlight. And yeah, the No Tax on Overtime Act of 2025. This one has not passed, but yeah, something you probably heard Trump mention, no tax on overtime. So yeah, that one's pretty straightforward for what that one
I think the most interesting aspect of what we've discovered in this project, when we put multiple bills into the app on a given weekend, and you see something like this where no tax on overtime is almost split right down the middle, but then I think what was it, the one above it was sanctioning Russia, and that one's like 93% in favor. So the same group of people that is split on the no tax on overtime is 100%, almost entirely, in favor of releasing the Epstein files or in favor of sanctioning Russia. So those are, I think that if we think of the reason why we did this in the first place, our basic premise was that people don't fit into a left and right dichotomy, that is really an artificial construct. Most people don't think that way. They make their decisions based on their personal life experiences and what they've observed about how the world works, and so they just they're not going to always align on a left or a right issue. We're sort of forced into that left and right concept by the two-party system and by the media and by social media and these types of things. And when we actually put the topics in front of people, you really see that is entirely forced on us, and that's really not how people think.
Yeah, and I was curious how this one, 87% opposed. And yeah, I know, party politics is something we try to not focus on, and just focusing on the issues. So yeah, that is a main aspect of what we're doing as well. And yeah, we had a Protecting Our Nation's Capital Emergency Act, changing the rights of law enforcement officers in Washington, D.C., and allowing them to negotiate disciplinary matters through collective bargaining and reinstating the statute of limitations. Disciplinary cases, police, civilian employees repealed in 2022. So yeah, there's been some bills about Washington, D.C. too. Yeah, I'll touch on the other one in a second. And yeah, the American Entrepreneurs First Act of 2025. This one was about citizenship, about mandating documentation for citizenship when applying for loans through the Small Business Administration, and disapproval of arms sales to Qatar. That was another bill. And yeah, there's more info about that one if you want to dig into that. And voting in the District of Columbia. So this one would be the federal government dictating the DC to where they're not allowing non-citizens to vote in their elections.
That was an interesting one where for local elections, could you allow residents who are not, permanent residents, green card holders, and people on visas, student visas and whatnot, to vote if they are not U.S. citizens? So that one was 60%. But so this bill was the Congress decided to override the District of Columbia's decision to test that out, basically. And so this would be essentially the federal government overriding local control in the district.
Yeah, that was another, I mean, DC has been getting a lot of attention, and I know we're getting close to the end, so I think I might just kind of skip over a couple bills. Yeah, American Cargo for American Ships Act and Aerial Firefighting Enhancement Act, kind of.
Can I, the
Yes.
American Cargo for American Ships Act was one of those cases where the GPT-5 or the AI found a ton of organizations that supported that bill. A bill that we never heard of, and a bunch of organizations that you'd never heard of. I've just pulled it up real quick. The Marine Engineers Beneficial Association, the Sailors Union of the Pacific, the Seafarers International Union, et cetera, et cetera. So I think what's interesting too is that we find ourselves being educated about a bunch of these bills that they get traction and they have a lot of supporters, but they get zero media attention. And that's, again, part of the sort of the media's bias towards what is the most salacious, not necessarily what it has the specific impact.
Yeah, and then on that topic, this one was about requiring the U.S. Department of Transportation and transport on privately owned commercial vessels of the United States. And yeah, this one, if you notice right now, is split evenly 50-50. So yeah, even the few people on this call, you guys can shift that one way or the other.
I also want to make a quick point about the vote count. So we have about 24,000 people enrolled in Digital Democracy Project right now. We keep the number on the website, so it's constantly being updated. We're going to approach about 100,000 votes cast pretty soon on almost 500 bills since we started the 2023 Florida legislative session. Now we've done 3 Florida legislative sessions, and we're doing now national. So almost 100,000 individual ballots for individual bills, which is really super exciting. But what that means is that, a person could vote on one bill that they find important or relevant and not vote on any others. So for this project to really grow, we need Congress people to see hundreds, if not thousands of people in their own districts putting pressure on them to vote the way the people want them to vote. So that's where the grassroots organizing becomes critical. We really feel like the technology supports what we're trying to do, and now it's a question of how do we scale this thing, because even with 100,000 votes cast, it gets distributed over a lot of bills, and so any given bill doesn't look like it has that many, maybe a few hundred, maybe 500, whatever. But we're going to need the help of all of your respective organizations to kind of help spread the word and get people active on this so that we can put pressure on legislators.
Yeah, we want to get up to where we have millions of voters in all 50 states weighing in. And yeah, so I'm going to pick up the pace a bit. And so this one was related to the conflict in Iran, giving Congress more say on that issue. There was a bill, again, related to the EPA that changes the pollution classifications and emissions. The disapproval of the Banks Merger Act. And this one was about the Veterans Affairs. And the One Big Beautiful Bill, of course, got a lot of attention. The Genius Act was another one about stable coins. And yeah, I'll try to highlight some major ones. The Take It Down Act was about non-consensual, removing non-consensual images. I know I heard Melania involved in that bill. And let's see. Yeah, this one was about the tariffs, kind of taking Canada out of being impacted by the tariffs. And yeah, terminating the Department of Education is pretty straightforward what that one was. I know that one was one that was kind of more split. So yeah, 59% opposed. And then, yeah, some of them related to taxes and deadlines, and another TSA one.
Ooh, don't forget the Greenland bill. That was one of my favorites.
All right, well, yeah, that was one of the first bills we carried. And you'll see, too, a lot of the bills towards the end have gotten a lot more votes. Yeah, this one.
Because they've been in the app longer. So, yeah, more people have had a chance to jump in there.
And
Can
in
you
the corner,
scroll? Can you scroll so we can see the whole country on that particular one?
yeah, pretty split, I guess.
Yeah, so but I think what I wanted to highlight is that there are a lot of states there that are great. So if you know people in Tennessee or Mississippi or New Mexico or Montana or North Dakota or Maine or what is that, Vermont, um, West Virginia, sorry, let me do my geography real quick. But if you know these people, you know, if you've got friends, family, cousins, uncles, whatever, please let them know that they can now participate, because we would love to see all those states lighting up with voters in each state.
Yeah, and yeah, the SAVE Act was another major one. The continuing resolutions one, which there might be another version of that one. Nullifying OSHA. Yeah, one about abortion funding. Civil Service Act. The Fair Tax Act was about, that one was the one about significantly changing taxes, abolishing the federal income tax, or yeah, and the state taxes, replacing them with a national retail sales tax. That one was interesting to me. And yeah, I think we'll let you guys, if you want to dig in more on those. Everything's on the website. You can see all this, all the updating results. And then
Oh,
you
I will, yeah, I want to shout out about that too. We will be, the federal bills, these federal bills will be up on our website with the vote records from their respective Congress people. We're expecting that in about 2 weeks from now. So right now you'll see that we have all that for Florida bills, and we have that for federal bills last year that Floridians were allowed to weigh in on. We haven't done that yet for the new federal bills that all the federal bills you're seeing on this tally map, they're going to be in that bills page probably in the next 2 weeks because we're just redoing our system so that we can track votes from now all 435 members of the U.S. House, all 100 members of the Senate, and put those into bill scorecards up on the page, up on the website. The other thing is I have dropped in a link to our Slack. So if you're not already, you can jump into our Slack. You can communicate with us. Tell us which bills that you want us to carry in the app. If you've got bills that your organization is really tracking, I know there are a lot of people here who are representing other organizations or groups that do track legislation that affects your organizations. Please let us know, because the more, you know, the more we hear from you guys, the more likely we are to prioritize it if we know that it's something you guys care about.
Yeah, and definitely help spread the word, getting more voters engaged and empowered. And yeah, so our legislators feel more pressure to listen to the voters. Voters have more power. And I mean, I'm able to hang on to if anyone has any lingering questions or would like help getting to the app. So yeah, if anyone has anything else you'd like to share before we end the call, feel free. Otherwise, we will be having another one of these, kind of a similar format. So if you do have someone else, I'll drop it in the chat now too. If you have someone else that you think would be interested in Digital Democracy Project or the bills, learning about us, they can definitely join the next one in September. And yeah, we'll probably have these every month or so. And then I'm dropping my email and phone number in here as well. If you have questions, you want to communicate to us, maybe if you don't want to get in the Slack channel, you can reach out to me that way too. And yeah, let us know if you need help with anything or any feedback. And yeah, if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat any last minute, or yeah, come off mute if you'd like to share anything before we end. All right. If not, then yeah, you guys have a great night, and thank you so much for joining and being engaged and helping us expand this project and give voters more say. Yeah, Ramon dropped his email in the chat as well. And yeah, thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
All right. See you later. Have a good one.